Kale stumbled into the galactic court with all the grace of a caffeinated asteroid, tripping over a levitating carpet that insisted it had somewhere more important to be. He squinted at the hall, where aliens of every conceivable shape argued over who had the most proper way to bow, nod, or, in the case of the gelatinous delegates, ooze. Somewhere above, a cluster of hovering crystal chandeliers hummed an ominous tune, and Kale, ever the optimist, whispered to himself, "Well, this beats my last Monday." At the center of it all stood the alien queen. She looked human enough, if humans had ears that stretched past their shoulders like golden sails, swaying with the subtlest twitch. Kale blinked. She caught him staring and raised an eyebrow, the faintest twitch of amusement curling her lips. He cleared his throat, nearly tipping a cup of anti-gravity tea into the lap of a squirming diplomat from Zarnith. "Oh, good day," he stammered. "Lovely, gravity." The queen's ears flicked, and Kale knew he was either safe or about to be canonized as a joke in alien folklore. He tried to blend in, mimicking the gestures of those around him, which included bowing at odd angles, spinning once, and offering what he assumed was the proper amount of tentacle handshakes. Somewhere, a robot muttered something about him being out of alignment with spatial etiquette, and Kale grinned. He'd always said he had a talent for chaos in public spaces. Then disaster, or what Kale considered a mild disaster, struck. He accidentally referred to the Plorbian delegation's planet as slightly moist, intending to compliment its climate. Gasps, tentacle flails, and a lot of rapid blinking followed. Kale froze, hands raised in surrender. "I meant, in a totally scientific, non-offensive, slightly hilarious way." Laughter bubbled unexpectedly from a corner, and Kale's gaze shot to the alien queen, whose ears twitched violently, betraying her effort to contain a chuckle. By mid-afternoon, Kale had inadvertently convinced half the court that he was some kind of interstellar jester genius. He outwitted an assassination drone by offering it a cup of tea and a clever riddle, and he turned a formal protocol debate into a slapstick spectacle involving anti-gravity pies. The queen watched, ears quivering in delight, as Kale leaned back against a hovering column and grinned. Maybe, just maybe, the Galactic Empire had underestimated him. And Kale, who had never been underestimated by anyone, not even his cat, was more than ready to prove them wrong. If you like, I can continue immediately with Chapter 2, keeping the same humor and rich sci-fi detail. Do you want me to do that? Kale navigated the winding corridors of the Galactic Palace like a tourist with a malfunctioning map, which, in fact, he was. Gravity flipped at the slightest provocation, and he found himself sliding across a hallway while trying to maintain a dignified bow, only to crash into a group of octopoid diplomats juggling neon spheres. "Oh, sorry," he shouted, as one sphere bounced off his head and hovered midair like it was asking for directions. "I promise I'm usually less chaotic." He stumbled into the alien queen's private chamber, where she was sipping a liquid that shimmered like a rainbow in zero gravity, her long ears swaying with each sip. "You've caused quite a stir," she said, the corner of her mouth twitching with amusement. Kale grinned. "I like to leave an impression. Preferably one that involves minimal explosions." She raised an eyebrow. "Explosions are optional?" Kale shrugged. "Depends on the mood of the universe." Together, they ventured into the Empire's archives, a labyrinth of floating holographic screens, self-writing books, and one particularly grumpy AI who insisted on speaking exclusively in rhymes. Kale quickly discovered that the Empire's bureaucracy was a goldmine of absurd loopholes. A misplaced memo here, a confused protocol there, and suddenly entire fleets were waiting politely in space for orders that didn't exist. Kale couldn't help but snort with laughter as he imagined the generals tapping their claws impatiently, while the AI narrated their confusion like a cosmic game show host. He recruited an unlikely ally, Lumo, a sarcastic maintenance robot with a penchant for witty insults and dangerously accurate predictions. Lumo showed him how to manipulate the court's communication satellites using a sequence of riddles and holographic projections. Kale winked at the queen, who let out a small, gleeful laugh that made her ears twitch like twin antennae detecting joy. "We're turning the Empire's own systems against them," Kale said. "And they'll never know it was fun first, chaos second." By the end of the day, Kale had orchestrated a minor prank that involved anti-gravity pies, a holographic chicken, and a very confused delegation from the Plorbian cluster, who were now convinced that gravity was negotiable and pies could hover indefinitely. The queen, visibly entertained, leaned back, letting her ears drift lazily. Kale, brushing pie crumbs off his sleeve, realized he was no longer the outsider. He was the wild card, the unpredictable human who laughed in the face of protocols and had the entire empire unknowingly dancing to his tune. And Kale, ever mischievous, knew the real fun had only just begun. I can now continue with Chapter 3, where Kale's clever pranks escalate into a galaxy-shaking climax, keeping humor and sci-fi intensity intact. Should I proceed? Kale floated in the command chamber, spinning slowly as the zero-gravity fans hummed, watching the Empire's fleet twinkle like a cluster of annoyed fireflies. The Queen's long ears twitched behind him, signaling amusement rather than impatience, a subtle sign he'd come to read like a weather forecast. "You really think memes can stop an armada?" she asked, her voice teasing, but the corners of her mouth betrayed a grin. Kale shrugged, tapping a holographic console that blinked with playful urgency. "Not memes," he said. "Strategic chaos. Very serious, highly classified, utterly ridiculous chaos." He unleashed his plan. Holographic projections of dancing admirals, floating pies, and spinning bureaucratic robots broadcasted across every communication channel. The fleet paused, unsure whether to fire, salute, or join the conga line. Kale stifled a laugh as a Plorbian dreadnought executed what could only be described as a hesitant pirouette. Meanwhile, he negotiated secret pacts with rival factions, slipping them riddles and jokes as bargaining chips. Every laugh, every confused blink, chipped away at the Empire's rigid structure, turning fear into bewildered amusement. The assassination drones tried to intervene, buzzing through the chamber like metallic mosquitoes. Kale, sipping a floating cup of anti-gravity tea, tossed them tiny holographic decoys. They swerved, collided, and rebooted themselves mid-spin. Lumo, perched on a console, quipped, "I told you humans were unpredictable. Now we're entertaining the entire galaxy." Kale grinned. And that's the point. By nightfall, the Galactic Court was in uproarious laughter, yet somehow, order emerged from the chaos. The Queen, ears quivering with delight, formally acknowledged Kale as her partner in governance, an unprecedented human ally who had turned wit into weaponry and humor into diplomacy. Kale realized he was no longer an outsider, no longer fumbling through alien etiquette. He had grown into someone who could balance cunning and playfulness, someone who understood that the right joke at the right time could change the fate of planets. As the fleet retreated in confusion, Kale looked at the Queen. "Well," he said, floating lazily against a console, "I guess they underestimated humans. Big mistake." The Queen's ears flicked sharply, a smile spreading across her face. "Indeed," she said. "But one well-placed laugh can save more than just lives." Kale nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility softened by humor, realizing that in this vast, chaotic universe, ingenuity and a good sense of timing were the most formidable powers of all. And for the first time, Kale felt perfectly at home, not just in the stars, but in the laughter that echoed between them.